You're good to go. You're good.
Okay, we have everybody here, and it is now gone 2 p.m. So I will officially open today's meeting at 2 p.m. And I would like to acknowledge we are hosting this meeting on the traditional land of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and are joined by people from other lands around the state. We acknowledge the Aboriginal people as the traditional custodians of Western Australia, pay respects to elders past and present, and the ongoing connection between people, land, waters and community. This meeting will be run in accordance with the DAP Standing Orders 2024 under the Planning and Development DAP Regulations 2011. This meeting will be recorded and live streamed on the DAP website in accordance with Regulation 42A of the Planning and Development DAP Regulation 2011. Members are reminded to announce their name prior to speaking. Panel members also may refer to technical devices throughout the meeting. I will advise members for today's meeting. My name is Francesca Lafanti, presiding member. We have in the room with us today David Page, deputy presiding member, Clayton Pine, specialist member, President Lee Broad from Shire of Narrogin, and Councillor Brian.
Lee Ballard.
Sorry. And Councillor Graham Ward from the Shire of Narrogin. Apologies for the incorrect details. We have no apologies for today's meeting and no members on leave of absence. The minutes for this DAP meeting will be available on the website. We will move immediately to part 5, the Shire of Narrogin. Members, can I have a show of hands if you have duly considered all matters before you in relation to part B of the agenda and part B related information, noting that in the addendum to the RDAP was published on the 11th of June. That is unanimous for the minute taker. Members, are there any disclosures of interest? I'm not sure from the councillors if this matter was dealt by Council Meeting. Thank you. Are there any interest disclosures from any members? That is nil for the minute taker. We will move immediately to the application. That is a Form 1 application at 14 and Parks Road and Great Southern Highway, Great Southern Highway and One Erie Road in Narrogin. There is no deputations, but we do have the applicant here, Rebecca Hanson, to answer any questions. Rebecca, I'll just get you to come forward if you don't mind and sit down in front here, and I will go immediately to members. Members, do you have any questions to the applicant?
Yes. Question I made, Chair, Lee Ballard. On question on page 57 of the application, there is a map with housings. It's missing 2 houses on Contine Road.
As I explained in my last submission, it's a bit of a hit and miss. We try and get every house, but we do it by aerial photography. There's no database that we can pull on to say which is houses are occupied.
Yep. Thank you.
Is there any further questions? Yes.
In your latest response to the revised conditions, you're talking about the road access is vague. But something about a site construction access plan. No, I couldn't find one.
No, we just have the traffic impact assessment at this stage. So that will probably form part of construction management plan.
So there is no site construction access plan.
No.
So I'm just wondering if you can then explain, because I've got the solar farm overview plan, which seems to show some access roads on it.
It will be current farm houses operated, yeah.
That's this one here.
Yep. So access will be pulled from a number of points on Great Southern Highway,
yep.
Winery Road, for the battery particularly, and then Crossing Road.
Which shows another access point down Winery Road. Very corner down.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
As you
well,
can understand, these things will go through another further detailed design as they choose components and all that sort of stuff. But and we will most likely, as we have with other renewable projects, have to submit a form to.
this seems to me critical to determine the extent to which the applicant should upgrade roads. So how do we overcome that at this stage? We've got conditions about upgrading roads and you're saying we don't need to.
Well, the upgrade is in particular Parks Road, and we undertook a detailed site survey, and we came to the conclusion that that road was unsuitable for heavy vehicle traffic and wouldn't be used as part of the, we have enough access for the site from Consent Road.
In relation to condition 3, which is about having a construction management plan, which includes L, which is to do with a understanding system. You're suggesting that that's not a normal thing for.
No, we suggested the length of time, so we don't think it should be over the life of the project, just construction phase and then early operational phase.
Did you have any further questions?
Maybe.
Okay. Are there any further questions, Miss?
Yes, please. Rebecca, so when this was before us last time, we talked about workforce accommodation and your application and follow-up submissions outline that no workforce accommodation will be required and the workforce will be accommodated in Narrogin or surrounds. Since we last met with you, we've had another application come before us and they've done the same thing.
Yeah.
In talking to the Shire, they've told us that there is very little, if any, available accommodation in Narrogin or surrounds. So I'm just wanting to comment on that, please, because I'm just mindful if all these applications are saying we don't need workforce accommodation, therefore don't give us a condition about it, because we'll just find accommodation in the town and everyone's saying the same thing. So what do you base that say?
Well, that's the proponent. They don't propose workforce accommodation as part of their applications. So,
All right, you've asked us or you've queried the advice note relating to workforce accommodation on that basis, but do you agree that it was a condition previously? Now it's an advice note in the event that you do need to look at workforce accommodation. So you've sort of contested that a little in your latest submission, but you understand why the Shire is putting it.
I don't, yes.
Before we go on, I have a follow-up question. The proposal material that you've provided talks about some accommodation for workers during the construction phase, including abolition of grids, etc. Could you clarify that? It appears that that this is indicating that you may need on-site accommodation
For the workforce, like meeting rooms, resolution blocks.
Oh, so you're talking about accommodation as office stuff?
Yes.
Not accommodation.
Not accommodation
for
to stay,
sleeping.
Just for on-site use.
Yeah, okay, thank you for that. You'd like to continue.
No, thank you.
Any further questions? I have no further questions myself. Thank you very much. We may come back to you depending on what happens further. Thank you. We will now go to officers. I think we have Zara Wang with us. Welcome again, and Dale Stewart. Do you both want to come forward? Thank you. Do you wish to make any comments against the proposal and or against the additional material that you've provided in the comments on conditions and any comments from today's meeting?
If I may, what was provided is pretty much self-explanatory in terms of the comments raised as part of the revised condition, and the thorough report outline all those reasons in terms of nexus as to some of the issues that we raised. And I think from the Shire perspective, from what you understand and what the requirements are from a lot of those issues discussed as part of the previous application, we noted those conditions, and hence why we sort of say, right, although it's not a condition, we have to sort of conduct as part of the advisory. So in that sense, all those concerns that the community may have adequately addressed and acknowledge some of the concerns that we have in the Shire based on the development. Add on to your post.
Comfortable with those responses?
Thank you. Members, do you have any questions to Shire officers?
Yes, please. And I think I asked you this last time, but it's still, we're still grappling with all I am. Everyone else might be fine. But I'm grappling with the need or nexus between the operational requirements of the development and the condition looking for the upgrade, the road upgrades. So condition 3K seems to already cover off the need to repair or reinstate the roads in the event of damage during construction. But once that's done and we move into the operational phase, I'm still struggling with that need and nexus to upgrade those roads. Can you talk me through that a little bit more, where you see the need and nexus between the operational phase of the development and the upgrade of the roads? And also that upgrade, what does that mean? Is it a fully sealed road or is it stabilising it? There's some word to it.
In terms of the upgrade, it depends on a number of factors. I mean, the nexus that we provide is online that if from a long-term perspective, the cost-wise, the feasibility of it would be to have enrichment rather than have a gravel shed and then have the actual dust suppression included as part of the ongoing maintenance. So it will be dependent on how the proponent wants to address this issue and provide that flexibility as to providing an option. This is the preferred by ideal situation, bitumen, therefore it's not ongoing maintenance, as opposed to gravel sheeting, and then once the maintenance requirement in terms of dust suppression and when it rains and all those things that you have to consider as part of looking between 12 to 18 months works. So that may impact, and from a practical application and visibility is much more affordable. One bit dedicated from start.
Right. So you're saying you would like those roads upgraded and sealed prior to construction so that the construction traffic's not an issue, and then through the operational life of the development.
That's what that's my opinion.
If I may concur with those comments, I think we provide a flexibility that says we're prepared to consider a maintenance program during that period. A strong suggestion is that sealing is more economical at the moment, given that the likelihood of dust suppression control the existing traffic, which are really domestic level scale traffic that a single family has at least. Change it to go to school and shopping daily. It's far economical for the proponent to actually seal the road up front and thus avoid contamination, dust, associated issues associated with conflict. Most different than that, most of that road all happens. So it's a suggestion that it would be a more efficient way of dealing with the problem for a relatively similar cost.
So can I just explore that a little bit, because I think I read, unless I misread it, that we're looking at least 2.5 kilometres of road.
You can find there is a suggestion coming from one of the members shortly to limit that to a certain boundary line to give further definition and delineation to restrict that to some part road.
Right, because when I looked at 2.5 k's in Kitchen, I'm not an engineer, but I thought, wow, that's fairly significant. And so when you made that comment now, I was grappling with that. Okay, I will wait for that to come through. And how long do we think, and if this is not for you, then I'll ask the applicant, how long do we think the construction period is?
About 24 months. And that's recommended for-
Whichever may, the best intentions of all proponents in our experience is what they believe to be the best intentions. The reality between how that occurs in terms of achieving the logistics of workforce, of achieving accommodation issues, of balancing competition in that regard, of balancing the required acquisition of materials. Is generally in our experience that they're the best endeavours and generally experience longer.
Is there any further questions from panel? Yes.
Just to follow up on the, in terms of condition 3K, where it says that ensure these are reinstated. I wasn't sure what that meant, whether it reinstated to the construction civil level or reinstated to the existing current situation.
In terms of reinstate to the current situation. So if there's any different vegetation to that road,
So they sealed it.
oh, we're talking about, sorry, talking about the current level of the road construction.
Which I think has to be both. If there was a grand breach that there was no sealing requirement, but there was suppression that was required to bring the phase for extra wide length, then the answer survives. If it was sealed up front, the answer still survives, in that we would expect the construction on that road to still be to survive this construction period. Having said that, we assume that this the construction agent at the time around workforce that would satisfy and hopefully avoid concerns regarding quality of construction that should survive design and construction operational requirements for the next 24 months.
Just as a point that's made by the applicant, that in its condition 12 is a duplicate of K. 3K. Would it be correct to say that K is about what you're going to do to prevent degradation, and that condition 12 is about what happens if the road is degraded? So there is a difference between the two in my view.
The history in terms of the reasoning behind it.
Are there any other members who wish to ask any questions? Yes, would you like
Can
to?
I ask a question of the proponent again?
Yes,
Is that
yes.
possible? Sorry.
Would the proponent like to come forward as well? Actually, if the officers want to stay as well. It sounds like we're going to be bouncing between both. Yes.
Just got a question about the bushfire risk and report, and your comment talks about the battery energy storage is located close to the road, and the current practice of burn. My concern is that it burn without some sort of, I mean, we need some water there, that's in the process. I suppose my question about the burns is from, so I do there, I'm actually involved with the volunteer fire rescue, so I'll probably be there trying to put it out. But it's the smoke and the particles that smoke. And the majority of our winds come from the southeast, which is blowing that smoke back over our town. So my question is, you talk about 14 located throughout the bushfire risk, that's fine. But the best in particular, I know I do see it stated there that it's 435,000 metres. Is that what is going to be proposed for that site?
Yes. And we have to comply with the fire law, so yeah.
Can they request this 2 tanks rather than 1 for that size?
We can put it to the phone and I'm sure we'll have that.
Okay. Sorry, that's what I was.
Thank you. Yes.
Sorry, just
Another question?
one of the staff, I beg your pardon. In the RAR, under access and traffic, you mentioned that the A has been prepared by Shawmack, and then the dot points and key considerations which seem to come out of the TAA, except for the last dot point where you state that the projected increase in traffic volumes, particularly from heavy construction vehicles, is expected to significantly impact road conditions and generate dust. That's not come out of the TAA, has it? As far as I can see. That's your deduction.
It's on the number of employees and the volume of solar panels in the site. 140,000 solar panels.
It's not coming from the predicted number of movements.
Yeah, part of it is from Shawmack in terms of I think their assessment, I don't know exactly what it was. But the assessment was based on that report, and for me, from my perspective, from the conclusion in terms of what the potential increase of volume and the impact that will have in the amenity, number of the houses are close by, I think, Parks Road. From time.
That's not Shawmack's conclusion, is it?
No.
No, thank you.
Any further questions to the applicant or to Shire officers? Could you, I've got a question to do with the traffic movement, both of you really. We've been jumping back and forth between operational traffic and construction traffic. There's obviously quite a big difference between the two. Can I get you to both speak to that? First, I go with applicant specifically about, and this speaks to the road discussion we had earlier, in relation to upgrade and type of upgrade, etc. I want to clarify. What I'm speaking to is get clarification from both parties that we're all speaking about the same elements. Can you speak first, please, from the applicant's perspective?
When we did our site visit, so the road is graded up to a house, that is the closest neighbour, and then it's under constructed road reserve. So when we undertook our site visit, we have
sorry, the road you're referring to?
Parks Road.
Parks Road, right.
Yeah. So when we did our site visit, we have enough access across the site from Contine Road to get in and move around the site to install the solar panels. So we concluded that, and the neighbours were quite adamant that they didn't want to be disturbed or have much dust. So that was a sort of an appeasing thing, that that road would only be used on several occasions and then for maintenance purposes in the long term, probably.
So when you say that road was only used for several occasions, what is several and how is that determined?
It will be determined operational when they're on site. We can't. We've negotiated with the neighbours to put additional tree planting in there, and that we won't use that road if we don't have to. And we have enough movement over the site from Contine Road.
So yes.
You're only talking there about that bit of unconstructed road in the parks.
Mm-hmm.
We're not talking about parks and content, just the unconstructed.
No, yeah, but if that's our access. So if we determine that, then we won't be using parks either, the constructed park. There will be no heavy haulage traffic going down there. It'll be ute.
So you have got control from this planning group. You've got control to tell your construction company not to use Parks Road.
That's what we've negotiated. Yeah.
And if they do use it, who's going to monitor that? Who's going to?
You've got a complaints register.
So do you have a specific question?
I do,
Yes.
not about the roads for change.
That's okay.
You want
It's
to
not,
finish
it's not subject to what we're currently.
No.
Okay, continue.
And then so supporting traffic impact assessment says that it's not 18 months of heavy haulage. We'll have something delivered and then it'll be moved throughout the site. So and in most occasions it'll be ute moving components throughout the site, not heavy haulage.
Thank you. Officers, do you have anything further to add?
What's been included for 6 submissions from the public regarding the dust, which will be an issue given that sometimes working is sometimes Park Road, where there was a particular neighbour had concern regarding, I think they're about 20 meters from the boundary, and that area is not widely used, and only 2 or 3 residents are recalled use the second road. So, given that it's not regularly maintained as part of the Shire's requirement, sort of maintaining it's not like every month or so. It's when required, usually do that once a year or once every 2 years, depending on the need and demand from the residents. So hence why I think from a perspective of the increased volume of usage would require more attention as to how we deal with this gravel road as opposed to the ditch road.
Sorry, can I just clarify, because I'm getting confused now. So that portion of road that you're looking to seal, yeah, has got 3 residents that use it. And that's it. Yeah. So who typically would use that road? So there's 3 residents that live there and use it. What other traffic would generally use that road?
The one on road it does. I mean, there's a lot of farmers there that have their heavy vehicle running through a Contain road. It's a section whereby it's bitumen, and then the rest all gravel. And Park Road itself all gravel.
Further down
So-
Concord Road is gravel.
What I'm essentially attempting to separate is the impacts and therefore connected obligations in relation to construction versus operation. And we've been talking about sealing a road, which would be a much longer, more permanent, obviously, element. And we've been principally talking about the construction requirements. Can you speak to the operational requirements, both in terms of scale and in terms of the road treatment? Because they're quite distinctively different. I know the period of time for construction is reasonably long, but can you both speak to that? And what does that mean in the context of a non-sealed road in terms of functionality and dust or other amenity-based impacts?
Operationally, the highest impact will be at the battery with the O&M building. There'll be people in there, and that would be off Winyeri Road.
Mhm.
So along Parks Road, maybe twice a year, 3 times a year, someone might go into clean panels, and the farmer, because we're proposing grazing as well, might use it to move sheep.
Yes. Okay. So the excluding the farming activity, the activity on operation is primarily at Winyeri and lower level movement.
Our surrounding roads, yeah, for maintenance workers to go in, repairs that need to be undertaken.
Thank you. And from the Shire's perspective, we've been talking today about the obligations around road and type of road. The operational obligations are obviously vastly different in terms of capability of road, both in terms of condition. Can you speak to the comment you've already initially talked about in that context, which was looking to have the type of road you're expecting for the management of the construction and the dust? I know it's a 2-year period, up to 2-year period. Can you talk further about that obligation that is in the context of?
In terms of the obligation, in terms of, I agree with why volume may not be intensive after the operation itself, where you're looking at minimum number of vehicle coming on to maintenance work, especially around the solar. But same token, the impact, the most impact will be during construction. So, yeah. So if we address during construction, then part of the outcome of the, I guess, long-term solution is that the ongoing issue is not seal or any dust, and those not the actual impact was not be quite significant on the basis rather than the 4 or 5 along Parks Road in terms of integration. Now we've got another traffic coming in, although it's not as significant, but still significant enough to warrant the level of dust generated from the vehicle coming in for maintenance, works, and so forth. It may come on a regular basis, but still it's an issue.
So, maintenance post-construction,
For the solar.
is that significantly more than the conversation we just had about other users of the road network? Currently?
And what sort of vehicles would be used to maintain that and be heavy haulage?
If someone going into wash tunnels, in the back of you.
So I'm looking at, now I'm drilling into the operational road demand type of vehicles using. This talks to condition 13, I think it is. And from what I've heard today in the material, as well as the comments that have been provided by others, that there is movement on the roads, existing road system, that from what I'm hearing is in the operation phase more than operational activities and vehicle types as proposed by this application. Have I is that what is the case, or have I misinterpreted what I've heard? This looks like it's got less demand on those roads than what you've got on the roads currently, and will continue beyond the construction period. So I'm separating those two out.
Yeah, operational will be minimal.
So from the Shire's perspective, is that a reasonable conclusion, or if I'm not correctly?
From your question, I would agree with that.
So the primary,
Significant such during this course to the construction phase.
so the primary concern is the construction phase. Okay.
Can I just go into that a little bit more? So the applicant made a comment, and so I'd like a little bit more information on that. Our president has said it's around 24 months construction period. So for 24 months, are we going to have heavy haulage vehicles on those roads? Or is there a condensed period here and there where there'll be heavy haulage, and in between most of the activity will occur internal to the site? What is the understanding?
So equipment will be delivered, maybe every fortnight, maybe every 4 weeks, I'm not sure. And then it will be delivered, and then workers will move throughout the site and install the solar panels arrays. Yeah. So they'll have to arrive probably at 7 AM and then probably leave at 5 PM. And given the size of the site and the length of the construction period, it's not going to be everywhere all at once. It'll be staged throughout the site.
So did you have a further follow-up question?
I suppose my question on that is, currently if we're talking about Continental and Parks Road, they're probably talking 2 or 3 movements a day now, light vehicles, cars and vehicles. They've got in the traffic management plan, it's 4 truck movements and 24 light vehicle movements per day going to be going to and from that side. But that's not all going to be on Parks and Continental Road, I understand that. But it doesn't state which road it's going to be on. The Shire's concern is we've got 2 houses that abut the road with a setback which aren't in that map. The setback of about 20 metres. So the moment there's some washing on the line, it gets covered in dust, we're going to get caught. And so why don't you stop it?
I guess that's the reason we're drilling down into this, to get an understanding, right? So we know what the traffic report says, and that the comment that the president made about the TIA talks about that extent of movement. I'm trying to ascertain whether that is every day for 2 years, or if that's once a month for 2 years, or if so I'm trying to get that sense. And I guess from you picking up on the president's comment, do you get complaints now from residents that live so close to that road about vehicle, members of the gun club that drive past in their use. Do you get dust complaints now about that? And
Not on
what,
that road, sorry,
on the current road?
in the Shire, but not that road. Currently, we don't.
No, no.
Everyone knows who's driving there, other than the side vehicle that come down and then.
So on that, I'm sorry.
No.
So on that commentary that we're having, is the TI
Yes. The proponent work closely with the,
so the information here in terms of scale and frequency is different than what we seem to be talking about two different elements.
I suppose we have to remember that we have a huge site, so it's not 24 vehicles on Clontine Road, it might be 12 vehicles on Clontine Road and 12 vehicles on Waneri Road. And as they move throughout the site, so you know, it's not all going to occur at once there. There might be 2 truck movements that drop goods off there, and there might be 2 truck movements that drop goods off in the north of the site. So, and then 12 and 12, and then they'll move throughout the site working, installing solar arrays or battery.
So the 24 vehicles are not all trucks.
And is that for that? Is that what the TIA is?
Yeah, workforce, yeah.
Well, it says in here, there's during construction, 4 truck movements and 24 light vehicle movements per day. That's what the TIA says. That's what it says in here. Yeah. They separate, the TIA separated out light vehicles from what they classify as trucks.
And light vehicles, huge.
Yes, yes,
But still 24 trucks.
that's what it says in here. Yes, four truck movements and 4 truck movements and 24 light vehicle movements per day. That's what it's the peak generation. It's been referred to as the peak generation.
No, that's a good question.
Yes,
And a follow-up
absolutely.
question. In terms of the upgrades or the prevention of degradation of those roads, does it matter to the Shire whether or not it's sealed or maintained? And dust suppression measures put in place. Does that really matter? I know the CDO says it's probably going to be cheaper than this, but shouldn't that choice be up to?
It is. I mean, that's why the flexibility is to sort of for the applicant to demonstrate that, right, these are the concerns, how are you going to address them? You need this form.
Any other questions? Yes, sorry.
I want to take you away from roads and trucks in the public art. In the RDAP, you state, given the project's scale and visibility, a public art contribution will align with the policy's objectives and the broader planning goal of integrating major developments into the cultural fabric community. And a little further down, you say, given the specialised and remote nature of the site, the Shire recognises that a cash and lieu contribution may be more appropriate than an on-site installation. So then cash in lieu contribution is recommended to enable the Shire to deliver meaningful and contextual appropriate public art projects elsewhere in the community. So it seems a bit conflicting there in terms of your application of the policy.
What we intend to do is the option is still up to the applicant whether they want public art in the site or as part of this contribution to provide it for us to manage it. But by then the public art can be in some way provided within the CBD area. We have this public art like mural, sculpture, all within the CBD area. The applicant says, guys, we're not interested in having any public art within the site itself. We prefer it to be provided to the Shire to demonstrate how it can be best utilised in accordance with the public art strategy that we have. And on the outside council committee, we have all those projects in hand, it's just never getting funding to say, right, what can we do to develop this particular public art in terms of implementation through mural, sculpture and everything else.
I get that, but how does that, putting it in the CBD, how does that demonstrate you've integrated major developments into the cultural fabric of the community. We were talking about the policy, meeting the objectives of the policy.
The public art have those policy or I guess procedures in place or a number of recommendations from art, sculpture, or some of the indigenous as well. So as part of the things that we've done through some of the railway precinct is to appoint an individual local artist to provide those work, and through that, as part of the institution, through public art from renewable energy, that can promote some of those activities or the local artists.
Any further questions?
Yes, please,
Yes.
and I'm gonna go back to the stuff on the road. Because it's important that I get this right in my mind. And thanks for giving the addendum yesterday in response to the applicant's submission, because that was helpful. In relation to condition 13 in your addendum, you say the condition offers flexibility. And it's about the scope and the statement to be negotiated, use of bonds or financial guarantees perhaps, and potential for reduction or waiver of upgrades based on updated traffic management plans. The way I read the condition is, it says, prior to commencement, you shall upgrade and seal the following section to a suitable standard. Then there's a paragraph at the end that says, but we'll negotiate that. Now I'm just mindful of the planning process. This kind of makes a decision stands its right. We'll take condition 13. The applicant comes in to see you and that negotiation starts, and the city or the Shire or whatever it is says, no, you will seal. And the condition says you'll seal and we'll negotiate, and we're negotiating, but we think we should seal. There's no right of appeal at that point for the applicant, because the decision maker has then lost control of that. And it could actually get tied up between yourselves and the applicant, right? Kind of negotiate that outcome. So I understand your intent is very sound in saying, look, we will have a conversation about exactly what that scope is, that looks like. But it's, to me, it's unclear in the beginning of that condition is very specific. It says prior to commencement, you will upgrade and seal. And at the end it says, but we'll talk about specs. If I were the applicant, and I'm not making a determination here about that, but if I were the applicant, I'd be a bit worried about that. I'd be like, well, this could have tried something or not.
I mean, in a way, the intent is to provide that flexibility. I agree with what you're saying in terms of what the conditions are, but the overall intent is to provide that flexibility to the applicant. Say, right, this is what the proposal in the requirement. However, if that cannot be met, then we're happy to sort of talk about all these other options.
The applicant just comment on that, please. Are you comfortable that you will be able to negotiate an outcome for that? Or is this going to come back to the applicant?
I also know the closest house. We actually met quite close, had a meeting for about an hour and a half with them, and they do enjoy their view, and their view is the unconstructed road reserve. And so if that got sealed and the use was upped, then I don't know,
but the use may not necessarily get up just to be sealed, right? I'm just taking, there was a comment made at the last meeting by the Shire. About the Shire has the lack of resources to do this, and this road gets used, and there is a need at some point for an upgrade. So here is an opportunity to get some of that done. Now that may or may not be fair on the applicant, and that's what I'm I'm trying to understand. I understand the Shire's need, but I'm trying to understand whether or not it's fair for this applicant to meet that need to the extent that I feel is being suggested. Yes, I'm kind of graphic with that. I'll leave it there. You're saying
that when we went on our site visit, we were in standard cars, and it was, it was bumpy, and we just decided then there's no heavy haulage coming down here. I see we every now and again. It's not acceptable.
Yes, but the traffic impact assessment says that there will be trucks
not on park.
Can I just clear up just a little bit? There's probably three components to this. What Rebecca's talking about is the unconstructed part of the road.
Yeah.
Which isn't part of the request, isn't part of that, isn't part of part 13.
Oh, yeah, it's to lot 22, so that's all the way through to unconstructed road reserve.
Sorry, that's the adjustment I'm doing. So I don't believe that to that unconstructed road, it's the constructed road that's there.
Presiding member, because we're going to keep going around in circles, but I don't think I'm going to get an answer that satisfies me before we go into debate. While it is unusual for one of the panel members to start answering questions at this point, it seems, no, that wasn't me chastising, that was me asking the presiding member's position. You might actually have the answer that may satisfy. Can we ask the Shire president to?
It's unusual, and provided it's not forming a judge, you're not providing a judgment on the merit of the proposal. You want to find a sort of factual explanation about the location of it.
Yeah, so unfortunately, my these guys, I can't even show you what it is. But the actual, that lot 22 is at the end of that. Yeah, so I believe the recommendation, or the condition, sorry, should only be to where Parks Road takes a left hand bend, right hand bend. So it's actually not taking into account that unconstructed road. That's out of the discussion around that suppression because they've stated that they're not going to use it. So it's only about from Gladstone Highway, Parks Road on Clementine, and then that intersection of Parks Road to the bend where they've stated that's the last point into that, and not the unconstructed road.
Does the applicant understand what is meant?
I do. But as the closest neighbour, if we do occasionally use that road and that bit's unconstructed and that's constructed, then.
Any further questions at this juncture? If there are no further questions, thank you to the officers. We will now move to the agenda. The agenda has been provided, and there is a recommendation essentially on page, and this is correct from the applicant. Okay, sorry, question before.
No.
Oh, we'll go back to the agenda. The recommendation for this matter is on electronic page 21, partly into the document, and that is what we are considering at this very juncture as per the outstanding orders. There has been additional material provided by both the applicant in response to that and Shire officers, which you have received in your related information document. And I will first go to the responsible authority recommendation on page 21 for the minute taker. Is there a mover of the recommendation as it reads before we continue on? It is moved. Is there a seconder? It is seconded. Sorry. Yep. So would the mover like to speak to the recommendation? Is the recommendation in the draft that we've got at the moment?
Thank you, Chair. I'm just like to. I think it's the applicant has gone through the process really well, and I think it's a good project. But there will be I will put forward a couple of small adjustments to a couple of conditions as we go through.
If you want to make any changes, because we're now in debate, you only get the right of reply.
Yep.
So would you like to speak on any amendments?
I would like to add a couple of amendments, that's okay. And first of all, on condition 4.
Okay, so we're going to condition 4 for the minute taken.
So it states there that for a combination of retained vegetation and new planting along visually sensitive boundaries of the site, I'd like to insert, if possible, including the potential for planting on Gladstone Highway Road Reserve, subject to approval of Main Roads WA.
amendment 1 is condition 4. Okay, is there a seconder for amendment 1, condition 4? It is seconded.
Madam Chair, sorry, but I'm wondering if I think it was subject to the approval of main roads.
Yes.
I think it needs to be subject to the approval of the Shire in consultation with, because that no condition subject to approved council.
Right.
That's the same.
Is the mover and seconder happy with that?
Yes.
Okay, would you like to continue to speak as the mover of amendment 1?
Yeah, it just talking about the landscape screening and aware that the actual current location of the panels as in the application probably doesn't allow enough space between especially on Grayson Highway, where the actual panels finish and where the fence line is, taking into account fire break requirement. There's potentially not enough room for a future screen, and that's why I suppose just put forward the application and just and look at the application from. And there's a few of those spots where it is quite bare, a few of those spots it's already treed, so it's fine. But it's just more of a.
Thank you. Would the seconder like to speak to the amendment?
Nothing, just agree with those comments.
Any other speakers on the amendment?
Yeah, I'll support the amendment, and I'll support it on the basis that I think it's not fundamentally changing this condition. Condition already talks about mounting along visually sensitive boundaries, and I would suggest that the extra information being suggested by the Shire President is just clarifying that that boundary is one that needs some special attention. And given the condition is actually talking to submission of a landscape plan with a bunch of stuff in it, that will still need to be negotiated between the Shire and the applicant.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers on amendment 1? So we are now going to, so would you like a right of reply on amendment 1? We are now going to vote on amendment 1, modification to condition 4, the addition of point to it. All those in favour? It is carried unanimously for the minute taker. Would you continue to speak?
Thank you. Under condition 10, I suppose the question it's the same point, is on the end of point 10 and or main roads WA is appropriate from the traffic management perspective. Just as it is the Shire, the local government might have been actually about what road times are when we're accessing main road.
So your amendment, can you just walk through the amendment?
The amendment is just adding on to the end of point 10 and all main roads WA as appropriate. So if it's going on to Grayson Highway, then it's going to be a main roads discussion because they are responsible for signage on their roads.
Madam Presiding Member, just so the same thing again, the Shire tiers the condition. So if what you're asking, if we make it shall be to the satisfaction of the local government, in consultation with
Is there a seconder to amendment 2? It's seconded. Dale Page, would you like to continue speaking to the amendment?
No, my perspective on the amendment speaks for itself, just clarifying that. Access that road. It's not local.
Thank you. Would the seconder like to speak to it? Any other speakers on amendment 2? If there are no other speakers, would you like to reply? No. Thank you. We are going to go to the vote of amendment 2, modification to condition 10, which is to add some additional words at the end of it. All those in favour? It is carried unanimously. We're back to you, Shire President. Would you like to continue speaking?
Yes, I could. I have one more, which is condition number 13. And under dot point 1 under 13, I would like it to read if possible, Contine Road from Great Southern Highway intersection to Parks Road.
Okay.
And dot point 2 would be Parks Road from Contine Road.
Yep.
The bend in the Parks Road. See what the actual location or anything like that is. Be more specific. Sorry, that's just there, but I don't know what how we'd actually reference that.
Southern boundary or fault, like,
Yeah, whatever that body is, probably is, I said I can't, well, I can't see what that lot is, sorry.
That it might come up on further plans further through. This one is-
So that it takes out that unconstructed road.
I'm just having a look, see what we can see. Do the officers have some clarity around the
To the southern boundary of lot 6499.
6499, is that
Yes.
the number?
That's the lot.
Lot,
Yeah, well, that's
okay,
the
it's on
road
boundary of lot 6499. Okay, so that's that's changes to the 2 dot points, correct, in the condition 13. That is being moved by President Lee Pollard. Is there a seconder for condition 13 modification? It is seconded, Councillor Graham Ward. Would you like to continue speaking to it?
Yeah, as we've had a fair discussion about this already, I do believe we need to get this either constructed or dust suppression of some form through the construction period, because primarily that Contine Road in particular, and you've got to go along the Contine Road to the Parks Road. So whichever vehicles go through that, because the two houses that are actually abut Contine Road, within about, the 2 houses are actually built within about 20 metres of the road reserve. I believe the extra vehicles through construction will cause a lot of dust, which is going to those two components of those 2 houses. A lot of issues.
So that on that condition, if I can clarify before we go to the seconder, you're just changing the 2 dot points
Yes.
in the condition. The remainder of the condition is the same. Okay. Does the seconder wish to speak to the motion? Are there any further speakers on the motion? Yes.
Chair, I appreciate the Shire President's trying to achieve. However, I'm not sure it provides that flexibility that the officers suggest is available in that condition. I'm wondering if some additional wording might be necessary along the lines of prior to the commencement of construction, the applicant shall upgrade and seal or determine appropriate measures to ensure the constructed road is not degraded upon road section. So it puts that flexibility up front.
Yes, I did have some. That's up to the mover and seconder if they wish to make any changes.
The only concern with the degraded is it's actually not necessarily going to stop the dust problem. That's
Or the dust suppression,
and degradation.
and degradation.
Yeah. I would be happy with that as long as dust suppression is in there from that gravel road perspective.
Okay, so just to clarify where we're going, are we making any changes? Because I suppose I've got a separate conversation on that. Are you wanting to move, or maybe at this juncture we could just suspend standing orders, get some clarity on it? So I'll move at this juncture to suspend standing orders. Is there a mover? Yes, Clayton, fine. Is there a seconder? Dale Page. Okay, at this point in time it is 3 p.m. and we are suspending standing orders for conversation. And it's around condition, at this juncture it's around condition 13. So I had some language in condition 13, which was prior to commencement of construction. The applicant is to ensure, and you can rephrase this, the road condition is upgraded and maintained to a standard suitable for the construction period, to the satisfaction of the Shire of Narrogin. I have some concerns about being specific about upgrade and seal, and that was the sort of language that I had identified as being covering the intent. I don't know if others wish to speak to or talk about
I
that.
guess what I was trying to do was to leave that option in there, but to say the applicant shall either upgrade and seal or determine an appropriate measures to ensure the to ensure dust suppression and degradation of the road is considered. Something along those lines, which gives those two options to be thought about.
Okay. So before we continue back into the formatting, I just want to get some clarity around the language, but prior to ensure. So you're suggesting that the language is as written here, prior to commencement of construction, the applicant shall upgrade, seal the road, seal the following road sections to a standard suitable for accommodating traffic, or determine appropriate measures to ensure dust suppression and degradation.
Road is not ensure dust suppression and the road is not degraded.
Not degraded. To the satisfaction of the Shire of Narrogin.
On road sections.
And then the two parts.
Yeah.
Okay, is there any further discussion on this particular, before we go back?
I'm trying to get a handle around the degraded, because sometimes these roads get degraded not for reasons, it can be seasonal, they can be a wash away of stuff, and so
As a result of
if there's a, or as a result of just not, right? So it's whether that washes away bits of road. So I'm prior to the commencement of construction, the applicant to upgrade and seal to standards suitable for accommodating construction facility. Or alternative measures to adequately manage dust suppression to the satisfaction of the site, because there are other conditions that talk about repairing the roads.
Yeah, okay. All right.
So if this is really about dust suppression, then let's make it about that. Because otherwise we're not.
Okay, so what I've got here is essentially to add the words that we're talking about, if we go back into the meeting, or alternative measures to ensure dust suppression. And the road, or we're just talking about, is that what we're moving?
Dust suppression of the road, I think.
Okay. So to the satisfaction of the Shire. So just for the minute taker, and I know we're not yet back into the formal meeting, but the language was after the words traffic, and that in that condition, or alternative measure to ensure measures to ensure dust suppression of the road, comma, to the satisfaction of the Shire of Narrogin. That's what's generally being discussed. If there's no other general discussion, we're going to resume standing orders and move back into a formal debate. Is there a move for resuming standing orders? It is moved Clayton and seconded Dale Page, and we will now at 3:04 move back to the amendment. Yeah, can you just vote on that, please? Vote. Oh, sorry, all those in favour? Apologies. To resume standing orders. Thank you. So we're now back with yourself, Clayton, and we're on amendment.
Well, okay, I'm just wondering if that was some wording that the mover of the previous that amendment still in play.
The amendment is still in play. We can go back. Is the mover comfortable with? Is the mover and seconder, I should say, comfortable with the language that I've just read out becoming part of the preamble to Amendment 5, inclusive of the 2 road dot points that you have provided? Okay, so for the meeting, we've got the preamble and then we've got the 2 dot points relating to the sections of road, the subject of this. Okay. Did you want to keep speaking? If the mover and seconder are satisfied with that change, you don't want to continue. And then, is there any further speakers on the amendment? Yes,
I would please. And it's just, I guess, to iron out my thoughts on this. I was actually intending to move to delete this condition because I am struggling with the lack of clear or demonstrated legal nexus between the operational requirements of the development, the wording of the condition as was in the report, to upgrade and seal what at that point looked like a significant road. And condition 3K already relates to the need to repair or reinstate the roads in the event of damage during construction. So I was struggling with that condition. I think, given all the information we've received today, I'm happy to support on the basis that the Shire is attempting to take a pragmatic approach. And if there is genuine intent to negotiate with the applicant to say, look, if you don't have to seal based on further negotiations, then if there is an alternative that is genuinely addressing the issue, then I'm happy to support with that intent.
thank you. I have no additional comments to make. It's already been covered off in the conversation. We are back to yourself as the mover. Do you want to make a closing remark on this?
No, I'd like to thank the support for wording right for the panel. And but yeah, as we spoke about, it's about the dust suppression. It's the biggest fear, I believe. And to do that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. We are going to the vote on amendment. We are going to the vote on amendment 3, a modification of condition 13. All those in favour? Is carried unanimously for the minute taker. We are back to yourself, President Ebola. Would you like to continue?
That's all I have.
Speaking? Okay. Would the seconder like to speak to the motion? Would there any other speakers to the motion? Yes, we're moving to Delpage.
Yes, thank you. So before I speak to the primary motion, I would like to move one additional amendment, please. And that is to amend condition 3L to apply only for 3 years post-commissioning as suggested by the Shire in their response to the submission. The amended condition would then read: establish a complaint handling system to address community concerns relating to construction and operation of the development for a period of 3 years post-commissioning. This system shall include dedicated contact details and so on. A lot of complaints received and provision.
Is there a seconder for this amendment? It is seconded. Would you like to speak to the amendment?
I don't think we need to. It looks like there's been some negotiation between the Shire and the applicant about this. I think it is a again, a pragmatic response to this, and it ensures that operational issues will be addressed promptly.
Any other
No.
speakers to this? We're going to go to the vote on amendment 4 to condition 3L. All those in favour? Against? Okay, it's unanimous.
Thank you, presiding member. I have no further amendments. I note that the applicant did request a series of further amendments. I applied my mind to those, but I felt that where the Shire had landed generally, I agreed with that, and I didn't think any further amendments as suggested by the applicant had merit from my point of view. I will support the application, although an A use in the rural zone. I'm comfortable that the Shire's report demonstrates there has been significant engagement on this, and the proposal meets the objectives of the rural zone. Also meets the state's objectives to encourage renewable energy development in rural areas where environmental impacts can be minimised, and please noted that the area the subject of the proposal has already been cleared of native vegetation. No further clearing is proposed. Meets the requirements of the Shire's planning scheme, and the visual impact assessment provided indicates that visual impact on surrounding areas can be mitigated largely through existing and proposed landscaping, and the Shire will have an opportunity to review a landscape plan to make sure that this will occur. Other issues like traffic, environmental management and bushfire management, I think, have been appropriately dealt with in the report and the recommended conditions. So,
Thank you. Any other speakers? Yes, Clayton.
Chair, I'm more than happy to support this, particularly with the amendments that we've worked through already. The renewable energy facility, it's considered to satisfy or align with the objectives of the zone. I think in looking at this, and we've had a number of these types of proposals, looking forward to perhaps seeing some strategic application somewhere in the future to how we might deal with these on a broader basis than just on an individual application process. So we probably need some guidance on other sources. I agree that the potential for visual impact is low, given it's in a slight valley location. And recommended targeted tree planting earth funding would help to mitigate that visual impact. Bushfire risks, I think I agree. Well, I do agree with the previous speaker in that while there is a plan already in place, that some further work needs to be done on clarification in terms of the DFS requirements. Traffic and access, we've looked at that quite considerably today, and I'm happy with the outcome on that. I do have some niggling question around public art and the application of the policy in this particular instance. However, I'm prepared to let that run, and hopefully public art, wherever it goes, it has some reference back to this site or this type of industry. I think that's important to have some connection there. So I'm happy to support that and the whole project. Thank you.
Thank you. I will speak to the item, but I do want to move to amendments at this juncture. My two amendments, I'll deal first with, first amendment is to deal with advice note 9. It deals with the rating, information about rating. And whilst, if I have a second, I'll speak to that. Is there a second? It's to delete advice note 9. It's seconded, Clayton. The reason for my wanting to, my moving of this motion is I understand the sentiments and I understand where the Shire is coming from, but rating, from my perspective, rating of land is dealt with under a completely separate piece of legislation. And there are quite specific processes set out there, which include consultation with a variety of other notification settings within those processes. I'm not comfortable to include this as part of a planning application. I do understand that the applicants and Shire position based on their other processes, and so for those reasons, I just I'm just not comfortable having such a condition included on a planning matter. Would second like to speak to it?
Look, I just agree. I guess all that is to take notice, applicant. This is our position, but I agree. It's not really doesn't really have a planning purpose. Not that advice notes should necessarily, but I think it should be something.
Thank you. Any other speakers on advice note 9 deletion and its exists?
I'd like to speak against the deletion of it for the reason as the fact that it's not a condition, it's an advice note to the applicant, which is my understanding is what advice notes before they're not actually a condition of the plan. It's why they're advice notes, and that's why they're there.
Thank you. Any other speakers on this amendment? There are no other speakers. I don't have anything further to say. I've made my comments on it. We're going to the vote on this amendment. All those in favour? Against? It's carried 3-2 for the minute taker. My next amendment is the deletion of advice notes 10 and 11. Both of those deal with workforce accommodation, and I note that the application doesn't actually include any workforce accommodation. Again, whilst I understand the sentiments around this from the Shire, I don't see that the relevance in this particular case of having that as a specific planning base. And I acknowledge that these not necessarily, well, they're only advice notes, so they're not enforceable, but general information, there's opportunity to provide this general information in relation to the local area in the absence of having it as a condition. And from my perspective, any workforce accommodation on the site would actually require separate approval. So that's my reason for, there's my amendment, and that's my reason. If there's a seconder to that. No seconder, lapses. Those are my comments for so far. I won't speak extensively about the proposal. I think it's a good proposal. I would agree that there has been a few changes necessary. The information we've received through this additional material has been very beneficial from my perspective, and the discussion today has been very helpful. The proposal is consistent with the planning framework, and I'm satisfied that the proposal and the amendments of condition will satisfactorily address the concerns associated with the development. If there are no other speakers, we move back to the mover for right of reply and close of debate.
Thank you, Lindsay. I'd just like to thank the panel for the discussion and the amendment to make the much clearer. As I agree, it's a good development from a renewal perspective, and look forward to the question moving forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The debate has been closed on the substantive motion. All those in favour? It is carried for the minutes taken. We move back to the agenda. We have there are no Form 2 applications in relation to this proposal and no SAT reconsiderations. The SAT proposals are listed here. I won't speak to those, and accordingly I'll close today's meeting at 3:19 p.m. Thank you everybody for your participation.